Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Vivid Earth. Anina, Malherbe-Lan back. And tonight I have Sacha Stone with me. He's actually in South Africa, in Cape Town at the moment. We're thrilled to have him here. And he's been an inspiration of mine in my awakening journey quite early on. Crucial information that I needed at the time, about 5 years ago. And so I'm thrilled to have him here and to have him on tonight. Welcome, Sacha. How are you?
Very happy to be here. Very happy to speak to you, and very happy to be in Cape Town, to be sure. It's just a wonderful time of year. As winter's beginning to break somewhat into spring, that's a fantastic place to be.
Yeah, yeah. No, we've got some sunshine. So, 4 seasons in one day. So that's Cape Town. Chilly weather, but sunshine. That's all we need. So, Sacha, you've been on this journey for many, many years, about 20 plus. Tell us how you kind of decided to go in this direction, basically trying to wake up humanity and bring in and usher in and help, create this new earth that we all really want to see around us and that we know is on the horizon.
So my own journey is simply steeped in a backstory, as you probably know, connected to being a war child and then an effective refugee for a number of years, and then a kind of rock and roll shock poet type identity for about a decade, and then transitioned into setting up my Peace Foundation in 1999. So it's faith and I almost spoke Afrikaans to you. Can you believe it? 25 years ago. And to answer the question, the algorithm for me was what I espouse and speak to quite luridly, which is pure truth and right action. I mean, I keep repeating this as a kind of mantra because that to me is as simple as it is and as simple as it gets. When you conduct right action and when you stand in the flame of pure truth within your own life and your own being, everything, the road rises up to meet you, to be sure. But more to the point, you in that vein begin to find that you have the power and the majesty and the life force to be able to do the tap dance on the checkerboard of the kingdom of the devil, as I put it, because that's what this shit show called life is. It's about a checkerboard. It's about navigating a binary, dualistic model of creation, and it's not real. It's illusory. It's so ephemeral and transient, and things pass and relationships dwindle and dissolve, and great fantasies and great dreams and great plans evaporate as almost as quickly as they are conjured in the mind's eye in this realm of forgetfulness, in this veil of tears. And so how do we define anything real and substantive becomes the question in a realm of ephemeral tears? Well, we get very fucking real with ourselves is how. We get very real with ourselves. We have a reckoning. We don't wait for the reckoning to beat us around the back of the head with a baseball bat or with a thunderbolt or with a car accident or with some travesty in our lives. We do the reckoning by standing in truth and looking to ourselves and seeing that we are, in that sense, the Alpha and the Omega, and we're born butt naked and very much alone, and we die butt naked and very much alone in that sense. But of course, in the greater sense, we don't. We're never alone. But one can only reconvene relationship with that immanent divine aspect of our mantle once we have done the reckoning with self. So I would suggest that my path and my metric and my method was connected simply to, at some point, having the, I guess, courage to face oneself and absolve all of one's life in one perfect moment and not carry the wound beyond a certain point. And that's the key point, is that we must not carry the wound into life and then bleed over everyone else and franchise and syndicate our pain, because all too many human beings who are trapped in the miasm of the false light, so to speak, the monkey mind, the ego mind, they are really oscillating between addictions and appetite in life. And all that they're essentially doing is feeding the lower base frequency set of expression, which is to do with fight and flight and survivalism and fear and anger and jealousy and rage, and all of that stuff that doesn't feel great becomes really the premise of their expression. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and it pulls us into disease, unease, which is followed by disease, decay, and ultimately death. But here we are on the precipice, as I think you alluded earlier, on the precipice of tremendous upshift. And so where do we take it from here, and how do we imagine or begin to dream wisely becomes the only question.
Yeah. What a time to be alive. I mean, to be alive at this time when we see the world shifting into a new reality, into a new dimension, the golden age, if you will. So, it's really an exciting time to be alive. And, you speak about going through all the pain, and, sometimes we have to remind ourselves that we're just projecting through this avatar, right? There is a higher self that is beyond this 3D construct. And, it's about connecting with that in every moment. But of course, we forget in every other moment that we are just projecting through this avatar because we're feeling everything so intensely. But at the end of the day,
I have to say, in the ultimate expression, I am that thou art, we are, in that sense, absolutely the same creature. And when we recognize the fact that every relationship or entanglement in the entirety of our lives is based on perfect geometry, perfect scalar cascading of geometry and fractality and frequency alignment and attunement. Every single event, every single relationship that occurs in your life is divinely anointed and divinely appointed in that sense. And when one can recognize that fact instead of trying to be, in a sense, selective about life. I see these memes popping up in social media with these stupid younger minds grappling in the dark of this world, but really defending and protecting their egos in such an inane way, making out that, if something doesn't serve you, simply shut the door and move on, filter out life and, cut the cord. And there's a lot of denialism, it seems to me, that's written into relationships. So no one out there, I'm being a bit cynical, a bit jaded and middle-aged in saying this, but I'm not seeing much expression amongst the younger people seeking remedy, seeking how to atone for their own bullshit, and absolve entanglements, absolve relationships, or transmute and transcend. We should be looking to alchemize, to transmute, to transcend, to absolve, to redeem. That's what we should be seeking to do, to put creativity into the entanglement, especially if the entanglement doesn't please us. Then transmute it, alchemize it, use your immense, immanent powers to alchemize something which is not frequency aligned into something that is. And the analogy is always, to my mind, and I've spoken to this 1,000 times, but of the subspace chamber, where you feed in discordant tones from a cello, and really discordant, horrible sounds. And then in that subspace chamber, you've just got this endless kind of ghastly, cacophonous noise of discordance. And then you simply feed into that subspace chamber a top C, a perfect top C with a violin. This is a scientific experiment that's been done, incidentally. And then just that top C, that single top C note of the violin, ends up holding its own tensility. It holds its strength, and it doesn't stop, and it actually attunes all the bass frequency notes, and the incoherent notes end up all vibrating and oscillating upward toward the top C, until all that's left in that subspace chamber is the perfect top C note. And that's a very, very good metaphor or analogy for how a high frequency human being can, must, and will alchemize lower frequency beings, provided we hold true to that flame of pure truth and continue to conduct right action in the same way that you learn in life. And I just saw this corroborated by a ritual satanic black witch who went on record recently saying in a testimony, saying, oh, well, we all know how to cast these spells, how to entrap another soul. We first invite them into argument. Wow. So you go to a high frequency human being, you antagonize the shit out of them until they turn around and come at your frequency to defend themselves or tell you to get stuffed or whatever. And that turning of the high frequency to a low frequency is actually the standard hook to trap and then pull someone into the witch's vortex and then cast your own spells. So, you know, a salutary lesson there for all of us to never allow ourselves to be detuned frequency-wise by others. So.
And it's such a challenging task, you know, every day we get tested and triggered, isn't it, as we go about life.
Oh yeah.
And you know, I know what you mean with it's almost like spiritual bypassing and self-serving. You know, it's like a relationship that feels uncomfortable. Well, let's just walk the other way, run the other way, instead of saying, what is this relationship trying to teach me in this moment? That person didn't just cross your path by accident. You divinely designed that moment as your higher self to learn a particular lesson. If you're not going to learn it, you're just going to attract more and more and more of it until
that's right. And
evolve
that's
beyond
right. And
it.
these relationships have become very, very brutal. I've been experiencing it myself with, you know, in life in recent years. I've seen how a relationship can flower. And if the one party doesn't get in very short thrift what they want and what they desire, or what they think they want, then they just steal curtains, slam the door, hack the umbilical, and it's over. All of a sudden, something which was beautiful and flowering and tender and sweet and filled with promise is destroyed by a reflex of somebody who is doesn't have the patience to simply allow for that bud or that blossom to take bloom. And that's a thing of sadness, I think, to observe that people have become so hard and fast and, in a sense, pornographicized to the subtleties of human love and human relationship, and to be so black and white and reflexive about what they're demanding of life because they read it in a cosmopolitan magazine, or because, you know, it was reflected in a Netflix soap opera, you know, and that's the ideal life, that's the ideal partnership, that's the ideal sexual relationship, that's the ideal body, that's the ideal. No, none of it. All of that is iconography. All of that is iconoclasticism. All of that is idolatry, you know, worshiping false idols. How about what you have right in front of you? How about what life offers up to you right here in the living moment? How about taking that and perfecting that alchemy, at least giving it a bloody good shot, you know?
Yeah, it's all about perspective. You know, in that moment when you feel like, can't take this anymore, I'm going to run away, you just flip the script and say, what if I look at it from a different lens, through a different lens? And suddenly the whole situation looks different. And you bring that sort of loving kindness, you know, into your heart, and suddenly things look very different. So sometimes it's just about perspective and what lens you look at it through. It changes everything.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, there's always these timelines, so we can choose a higher timeline or low timeline. But anyway, we kind of segued. I really wanted to dive into, you know, what really inspired me was your NewEarth project. I love the one in Mexico, which I absolutely, when I discovered it a few years ago, I was like, I need to go to Mexico. This is like how, you know, I want to live in 5D. Tell us how these projects came about. You launched the sanctuary in Bali and then Mexico, and now you've got Tennessee coming up, and we'd love one in South Africa. But just maybe give us an overview of how this all came about.
Well, in the first instance, they are not glamorous. They are born out of blood, sweat, and tears, and a lot of a lot of hard graft, a lot of wise dreaming, a lot of beautiful planning and curating ideas like the elevation of art, beauty, and consciousness, and treating that idea as a very delicate flame and allowing that flame to slowly grow and burgeon into a raging inferno, which is my great dream, is to set this planet alight in a blaze of elevating art and beauty and consciousness into the status quo, which is to say, to systemically eliminate the bad dreaming from this hologram of reality, this holograph, which is scarcity economics, usury, blood cult,
slavery,
war economy, indentureship of all orders of magnitude, enslavement of all orders of magnitude. Yes, and into establishing enclaves of living men and women of the living soil who reconvene relationship with this earth plane, Tara, earth, and reconvene relationship with earth. This whoopsie kind of hippy-dippy notion of recent years about the divine feminine, which is cute. It's a psycho-intellectual aberration. This notion that we need to rekindle the divine feminine. It's quite an immature spiritually. It's an immature notion. It's cute enough, but it is immature. The reason being that people haven't thought long and hard enough about it. It's not about the divine feminine. Everything's divine. Males are divine. Females are divine. Rabbits are divine. And oak trees are divine. But it's about a resurrection of the relationship of the eternal with the eternal mother. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're yearning for. A resurrection of the eternal mother. Who or what is the eternal mother? Well, it's not the fucking moon. I can tell you that. And the lunacy that comes from lunar worship, that comes from the kind of false light witchery that seized women all around the world in the last X thousand years. The idea that the moon was representing the feminine principle. She never did. The moon is a male, a masculine archetype. In that sense, it's a fairly malevolent one as well, being a warship or a starship, being a hollow metalloidal object covered in helium-3, and well attested for being exactly that, incidentally. This is well known to all serious astrologists and astrologers and astronomers and people who understand real relationship between this Earth and the solar system and the mechanics of our solar system. But the point I'm making is that the moon, having masqueraded as the divine feminine for X thousand years, was just a decoy, taking our attention away from the true mother, which is this Earth, Tara. So that's how we ended up psycho-civilizationally ending up butchering this earth and desecrating it and removing our attention from what was right here. What we were standing upon was the living embodiment of the eternal mother. And the father, of course, Ra, the sun god, all of that. Yes, indeed. The son of the earth. We could talk about that being the dance of Shiva and Shakti. And along comes an interloper, an intercessionary, a third-party intervener, which is the moon, masquerading as the divine feminine, when all the moon is doing is cutting the umbilical between the sun and the mother earth, and creating that hyperdimensional conduit. Cutting that highway of life force is how entropy, disease, and death kicked into this particular hologram. So how we now resurrect ourselves from this before the moon is forced to steer itself out of orbit, which assuredly it will. There's no question about that the moon is a relatively modern phenomenon. No account of it going back longer than between 6,000 and 13,000 years. No account whatsoever, incidentally. So we know that the moon in that sense doesn't belong, never did. It's a third-party intervention technology. It's a subject which people get freaked out about. But as I said, I speak to real scientists. I deal with real astronomers and real physicists and hyperdimensional physicists, and we all know the truth of the moon. But once we've dispensed with this immaturity of ours, psycho-intellectually and spiritually, we resurrect relationship with this earth. So that's the living sons and daughters of God, the men and women of the living soil returning to the living soil in convention. So that's what the New Earth Project is, and that was what it always was. That's what I wanted to inspire. And now that we've in Bali set a precedent with the Bali New Earth Haven, which then evolved into the Bali New Earth Sanctuary in Mexico and Bacalar Laguna, which is underway now, that project. That's still 2-3 years from fully a realization, but it's a beautiful project. And we're also now beginning to make the early foray into the micronation, the New Earth micronation. That's the Tennessee Golden Ticket initiative that I just kicked off in the last few weeks, and which is doing rather well, incidentally. So that's, in a sense, the trifecta of enactment, embodiment, and manifestation of this new earth in real time. A Bali New Earth Haven, which I kicked off in 2017, and that's been proving the model of the elevation of art, beauty, and consciousness. Again, lots of trials. It's been a delightful shit show in a way, and a petri dish, a litmus, an experiment. But it's more or less working. And then the sanctuary in Mexico is taken to the next level with the residential, micro investors and residential community, and all the rest of it. And then the micronation in Tennessee, which will syndicate to all states in America, mark my words, within 3 years. That's the big play. And that's ultimately syndicating the knowledge, the know-how of how to reclaim the soil, the allodial titling on the soil, how to bleach the federal Vatican and crown encumbrances and liens off the land, off the soil, and how to then establish an auto-determining a sovereign jurisdiction under the highest iterations and expressions of law and of jurisdiction on earth, how to consolidate that community of fellows on that given piece of land, like in Tennessee, establish that those 1,000 golden ticket pioneers as being the de facto de jure pioneering mothers and fathers of the land, who now decree and now proclaim and now set forth the collective envisioning, backed up by a portfolio of technologies which we've been incubating for years, which can prove out a free energy microgrid scenario ultimately, and convert oil and gas into water and power up vertical greenhouses on next to nothing, and be able to deploy very advanced remediation technologies for air, soil, and water, and the augmentation of syntropic agroforestry. So once you've got abundant food and you've got structurized water and you've got completely cleansed air and a biosphere that's thriving, and then your honeybees and your insects and your birds and your wildlife and everything and everyone is beginning now to attune and resonate back into that immanent template, which is the angelic template. Now we're talking the real language, which is the resurrection of the angelic template. So the resurrection of the eternal mother becomes the first touchstone of relationship, rekindling that relationship. Then resurrection of the angelic template is where you and I recognize in that process of alchemizing our lives, our economics, our education, our everything into this new format where we're not listening to government or to the Vatican or the Catholic Church any longer. We pay no attention to the third-party interloper and intervention. And instead we, as I said, we proclaim. We stand in our true majesty. We assume I refer to this as assuming the Christed mantle, which is exactly what it is. And in that sense, becoming the second coming, all of us. A language which scares the hell out of stupid Christians, which it should and must, because they have to go and sit in a corner and do their own reckoning roundabout now. But good Christians, good Muslims, good Jews, good Buddhists, good Taoists, good Confucianists, good humans understand this language. The redemption is upon us, but provided we've done the atonement, and the atonement only comes with a hard reckoning with truth. Yeah.
So this is very inspiring. It's like a blueprint, really. It's a micro blueprint for the bigger Earth scenario as we will be seeing it in the future. So it's literally like bringing the future into the now. the blueprint of
Yes, and
how
it's
we want to do.
piercing the corporate veil, Anina. That's the key thing is piercing the corporate veil when you consider that the South African Republic of South African government is a privately owned corporation with stakeholders and is essentially owned by stakeholders in Basel, Switzerland, and the Bank of International Settlements and the Crown of England and the Vatican interests. And of course, Washington District of Columbia is out there butchering anyone who disagrees with their thermonuclear missiles and bullying the Putins of this world and the Gaddafis of this world and the Husseins of this world because they dared. And there are many other leaders like Ceausescu in Romania, who was a great hero in his day in the 1980s, and of course was massacred, murdered in broad daylight by a fomented globalist agenda, turned into the bad guy using propaganda. And they did the same thing to Saddam Hussein, the same thing to Muammar Gaddafi. And of course, they're trying to do it to Vladimir Putin, but that's not quite working, is it? So yeah, the same old storylines playing out, bad dreaming by bad men in those private enclaves of DC, Rome, the crowns of Europe and Basel, Switzerland. But the point here being that the South African Treasury Department owns your blood, owns your bones, owns the birth certificates, the wedding certificates, the death certificates, the fucking registration for your tractor and your bicycle. Everything is owned, securitized, and monetized through the Treasury Department. So really, the corporation government of South Africa needs to move into full dissolution without any question of doubt. There is no point of government. Government never had a point. Yeah. Government was always an abomination. It lurched onto land from the sea. This was really the beast of the sea, lurching onto land and becoming the beast of the land is your friendly government. And I declare outright, I wouldn't say war against it. I declare light and truth against the bedevilment of government, all governments. And I've sat down with so many hundreds of leaders from the highest levels of kings and queens and rajas and sultans and prime ministers and presidents, all the way down to the troglodytes in the basement, the functionaries in the United Nations and in embassies around the world. There's been so much of my wheelhouse for 25 years. I've had that conversation probably a few thousand times. The reckoning, the real conversation about the truth of piercing the corporate veil and the clear and present need for us to do that. And let me tell you, 99% of them agree with me.
Yeah, I think a lot of them are just kind of caught in the middle and they are contracted to carry out a certain agenda and they kind of don't know how to get out of it. Or maybe they don't have the backbone, it's one of the two.
Well, you're right. It's a combination of both. And, there's very little backbone to anyone who signs up to become a diplomat or a civil servant or a technocrat or a bureaucrat. No disrespect to good functionaries in the system, but, a shame on you. Time to throw your chips in and get out. Leave Sodom and Gomorrah and join the living. But, there are a lot of good people trapped in bad systems, to be sure. And my love and my heart is with them. Yeah.
Yeah, I find the whole subject of sovereignty, common law, natural law fascinating. I've been studying it for about 2 years now. And, the Tennessee macronation, so I understand that to be a sovereign nation, unrelated to the USA Corp or USA Inc., right? Or whatever. They relaunched this corporation many different times with different names, but essentially it's a corporation masquerading as a country. So
Yes.
as I'm saying, this will be a sovereign micronation unrelated to the
Yes.
US.
Nothing to do with the US. It's establishing a micronation under its own aegis, its own jurisdiction. The same way I launched the International Tribunal for Natural Justice in 2015 against all the odds, against all the advisement, dodged a number of silver bullets. We did it, and we're recognized. And we've had multiple judicial commissions of inquiry with great success and some real fanfare. And we're launching the next one in the new year. But the countdown will be on the 22nd of this month through a live summit broadcast where we announce the World Hereditary Council and the ITNJ's countdown to a judicial commission of inquiry into the doctrines of discovery, which is the 500-year hegemony of the Vatican and the crowns of Europe, which brought about the Holocaust of the status quo. In any event, more to come on that.
Yeah, and the good news is a lot of people are waking up in South Africa as well. They what we call emancipating. They're correcting their status from the sea to the land, and
Yeah.
you know about the People's Court that just opened.
I was with the king the day after he came and visited me. We had lunch together. In fact, he's coming back into the Cape this Saturday to my talk in Somerset West here. I'll be doing a talk on Saturday, and
Yeah.
he'll be coming back to attend that. So yes, I'm well aware of that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very exciting. So they've got 13 different tribes.
Anina, I'm 1 minute over, and I've got Professor Alex Ling waiting on another media channel. I'm afraid I have to go to that interview. Forgive me. As I
No
said, I have a
problem.
hard
We'll definitely carry on another time.
I'd be
So
very
much.
happy to pick up. I mean, I love these kind of shorter form interviews. I'm very happy to pick it up with you in the next couple of days. We could do part 2, part 3, because I like these questions. And this is really the stuff that does need to be, expounded on. It's really important stuff. And I certainly don't lose any energy speaking to it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sacha. It's wonderful having you on. I'm hoping to see you on Saturday as well. And
Yay. Good.
until the next
Good.
one.
Thank you, Anina. Look forward to that. God bless you.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. So that was short and sweet. We'll hopefully carry on after having to reschedule a couple of times due to schedules. Sacha is extremely busy at the moment and literally only have late evenings to do interviews, but it was a pleasure having him on. Hope you enjoyed that. His little taste of a much bigger subject. And yeah, I know I've been very quiet as well, because it's been a very busy time my side, a stressful couple of weeks, moving house, building a new what we call healing sanctuary and home here in Hout Bay in Cape Town. It's a wonderful sort of dream coming to fruition, but not one that is it's one that were fraught with stress and all sorts of discomforts, and not having a stable home really for the past 9 months. But finally the moment has arrived, so we are almost there where everything is settled. And I look forward to seeing you for part 2 of Sacha Stone. If you are in the Cape region, he's going to be in Somerset West. I forgot the venue. But if you are interested, just go to Sacha's channel. All the links will be below. And join. It's going to be a wonderful get-together of awakened souls. There was one in Noordhoek just 3 weeks ago, and it was really encouraging to see so many awake people in one room. It was a couple of hundred people. It was just enlightening and energizing, really, to be with so many people that are awake to what's going on in the world right now and ready to build and co-create a new earth. And that's really our job as the front runners of this awakening movement. All of us, not just those with shows and podcasts and whatnot, but every single one of us, because if we collectively can shift the frequency of this planet and of humanity, we will get to the new earth reality, which is actually already here. We just need to anchor it in. The more of us can manifest and envision what this new earth looks like, feels like, and operates like, this is how we bring it in. So we can't wait for it to happen to us. It happens through us. So every single one of us need to take action, big or small, in any way that you can contribute to this anchoring in of the new earth. It's so important. It really, really is so important. And sometimes we just need to kind of shut off the noise a little bit, maybe stop watching Intel for a couple of days and just envision this beautiful new earth around us and feel it, really feel it, because it's in the feeling how it feels like to be in this new earth that anchoring process happens. And we basically forge and chart a new timeline, so to speak. So let's make it happen, guys. I'll leave all the links below for both Sacha and my channels. Please make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel, which is kind of new because we've been banned twice. and then also Rumble. That's always the backup and pretty much where freedom lives. So make sure you are subscribed to Rumble as well. And Telegram, which is basically daily uncensored news and updates and where we can connect on a daily basis. I might not have the time to do a video every other day, but I'm on Telegram every day sharing news and information. So make sure you are on there as well. And yeah, all the links are below, and I will see you in the next one. Sending you all much love.